Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our LinkedIn live stream about how smart building technology can become mainstream. So I'd like to, first of all, welcome Adrian Pearson from the Eutech group to our stream. Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Hi, Jim. I'm very well. Thank you very much. Hello from Singapore.
Yeah. Look, real pleasure to have you on this. And I think clearly this is a huge topic, not something we're going to be able to solve in 30 minutes, but we've got some interesting content for you guys. And of course, we want to make this an interactive session. So what the format's going to be, Adrian's going to present some slides, and we're going to sort of lay out his vision for buildings and smart technology. And then we're going to take some questions and comments. So all you need to do is to put those in the comments section on the feed, and we'll be able to see those, and we'll take those sort of towards the end of the presentation. We've left at least 10 minutes to do that. We're really interesting to hear people's comments. And other than that, of course, we're live now, but we are recording this, so anyone who wants to view it, you can send them the link in LinkedIn, or as well, we'll be posting it on YouTube later as well. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything in terms of the housekeeping. Let's get on with why smart technology should become mainstream. Adrian, take it away.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Jim, for the introduction. So I'll run you through this for about 15-20 minutes, as Jim just said. And the idea is to discuss how we can make smart building technology mainstream, as this beautiful graphic created by Jim through AI actually very well illustrates. So quickly, I will introduce you to who we are, just so you have an idea of who I am. So I'm in charge of strategy of our company, which is called Eutech. Eutech is a group that essentially operates in the smart building industry and has been doing so for the last couple of decades. We have three companies within the group. One is called iViva, which is our product company, which is essentially a workplace cloud of low-code and no-code applications. We have roughly about 150 engineers around the region, from the Middle East to APAC. Second company is a marketplace called Spaceworks, which has partners of all size and shape, which have and produce, manufacture hardware, software, and IoT. And the last organization is SSI, which is a managed services company consulting, which manages all of our smart FM, smart facilities management, and our large projects. So they're subject matter experts on everything to do with smart FM. The reason our founder, Dr. Harry, who's an eminent person within this field and has been so for many years, he created this composable organization. So you had lots of building blocks which consumers and customers, whether they were owners or operators, could use. So to have independent software and marketplace and consulting managed services is something which is very useful, especially today when you have different needs, you have to cater for different needs. The next slide is central to everything that we do. I tried to summarize it as much as I could. So these three little circles essentially summarize what we do. Smart FM, smart facilities management, is at the heart of everything, as you'll see in this short deck. Facilities management is for a building owner or building operator and for occupants, whether it's tenants or employees. It's the key to everything. If you don't have smart facilities management, smart workplaces don't work, and sustainability cannot be implemented. So Smart FM is the central piece of everything and derives smart workplace and sustainability, but they have to work together to achieve the net zero goals that we all have to achieve by 2050. The next slide is just, before I go into the heart of it, is just to tell you that I haven't just made all of this up. This company has been around for 20 years, and I've just selected 5 projects that will give context to what I say later on. The first one is Medina City, which is in Saudi Arabia. That's 600 square kilometers. Our integration and visualization platform is used by that city to integrate all the buildings and operations of the city. Paya Lebar, same thing. They use our software and our platform. Barangaroo in Sydney, very large central business district. One Bangkok is one of the largest projects ongoing in Asia, which also uses our integration platform, and Dubai Festival City, amongst others. But just here to show that essentially we can manage, operate, and orchestrate and integrate anything from a meeting room to a city. And that's where the composability aspect comes into the whole thing. So the next slide, I see myself, which is, wonderful. I see. So the reason we're actually doing this webinar is because Jim and myself and our respective teams did a white paper this time last year. So you have the QR code here. Feel free to basically scan it. You'll be able to download it straight away.
Nice. And
which addresses
as well.
Oh, wonderful. Sorry. Which addresses the topic of today. How can smart building technology become mainstream? And believe it or not, what we wrote in November 2022 is still very much true, but so much has changed. I reread it this morning and I was like, true, but not so true. Yes, and sustainability, amongst other things, is one of the topics that has just gradually risen over the last 12 months. So feel free to have a look at the document. It is quite interesting. So now we're going to go into the heart of the topic. This is a recent publication of the World Economic Forum, which is very accurate on the topics that are at hand, both for organizations and public bodies. It's what are the risks tomorrow for business, whether you're a building owner, whether you're a pharmacist, whether you're an industrial park, it doesn't really matter. Climate is at the heart of everything. As you can see, environmental issues, which are the ones in green, are all linked to the environment, to sustainability, to ESG, to CSR, which makes it a fantastic time to be in real estate because it's essentially the problem we have to solve. Net zero, and I won't use the numbers that every single person in the industry uses, is the 40% of carbon is emitted by buildings. Whether it's true or not, we don't really know, but that's what everyone uses. Regardless of the number that we use, real estate has a huge part to play, and it's fantastic to be able to be part of that and be part of that journey until 2050. And then I say a journey because it's not a destination. It will take time, and everyone is at a different stage. An A-grade building in Singapore is at a very different stage than a 30 city in France, which is a C or D-grade building. But everyone will have to step up very quickly. So now let's go into the 5 things that we at Eutech focus on to try and make what we sell and what we sell ourselves and or with our partners mainstream, because it can't just be ad hoc sales. Everyone has to get into this smart building mentality. So the first one that I chose, it's occupants equals value. So now if you go on LinkedIn and many other sources, there are thousands of articles treating lots of different topics, and namely the same ones that I'm using. But I really try to focus on these 5 because for us, whether it's at a product development level, at a strategic level, top management level, marketing or sales, these are the 5 we focus on. And the first one is the balance of power is shifting. People who've been a long time in the building industry, essentially, if you went 20 years ago to a building owner, you'd negotiate with him or his team, and that decision would be made. And then there will be a top-down. The tenant will have to say, oh, thank you very much for not giving me this or not giving me that, or maybe allowing me to access this, but you didn't really have a choice. Now the power is not even at the tenant level. It's at the employee level, in the sense that employees today could potentially, and we have seen it happen in different parts of the world, mainly in the US and in Europe, employees look at an app and say, oh, the IAQ level isn't good enough, I'm not going to work. So you're now suddenly having a very different way of selling your products and services, because it's no longer a top-down decision. The employees and the tenant really drive how the building has to be run and not the other way around. And which leads me, so in the next slide, not the next slide, but sort of the how do we make it mainstream? So for each point I say, how do we make that mainstream? Is we have to take our industry from tech to as a service, right? So tech is absolutely vital. I'm not like we have 150 engineers. They work day and night, like every single engineer of every company, and it's really complex. It's not an easy industry we're in. There are lots of things that have to come together, but we have to sell it as a service in the sense that if you look at the Ubers of this world and the Spotifys and the Netflix, it's everything is as a service, and we have to be able to say to a landlord or an owner or an operator, look, you want a 26 degrees throughout your building. I'm not going to sell you sort of a capex and lots of material. This is the outcome that you want. So you want 26 degrees throughout your shopping mall. Let me manage the rest. I will pay you according to that. So the tech really is fundamental, but today we're still selling very much techie stuff. But the thing is that the people that make the decisions and the people that sign the check are not generally the ones that understand the tech. So we have to be as a service. So it's really the occupants. We have to become B2C companies in the mindset, because we have to understand how the employees behave, because these employees will require things from tenants, and these tenants will not pay X dollars per square feet in X building if they don't have that. And there was a JLL study that came out actually yesterday, which is really important. So I'm just quoting because it came out yesterday. So there's a 56% undersupply in Singapore and 84% undersupply in Sydney of net zero carbon buildings, in the sense that tenants in the next two to 3 years are asking for low carbon net zero buildings, and they simply don't exist. So it's not a question of owners and operators saying, right, there's no demand. The demand is already there. So it's really important that we have to focus on the occupants and shift towards as a service and to become B2C in the mindset. We're not just focused on the tech. I think we know this, but that's what we focus on at Eutech. The second one is same but different. The buildings that we have today, 80% of them will still be standing in 2050, right? Maybe 75, maybe 85, but a lot of buildings standing today, if you look at the city that you're sitting in now, a lot of them will still be around in 27 years, which means retrofitting is key. We will not be able to achieve our 2050 net zero targets if we do not retrofit. But the thing is, when you go and sell or go and promote retrofitting, three people have three different mindsets. So once again, owners, operators, and occupants. Each one has a different agenda. So the owner may say, I want to sell this building in 12 months. The operator will say, I need to reduce my manpower by 25%. And the occupant says, yeah, my employer are asking me about internal air quality. We have to find a common denominator. But the thing is, we can't just scrap these buildings. We have to be able to change everything with the existing infrastructures. But the thing is, we tend to have a generic smart building language. So we say one thing and then we present it a lot of the time in the same way. So it goes back to the first point, is we really have to have a different way of speaking to each, the occupants and the operators, but find a common denominator again. Because the building is the building. We won't be able to change it. We just have to improve it. The third point of how to get things mainstream. So I used Ocean's 11. Good. I thought, well, depending on the ages in this webinar, I'd hope everyone knows who Ocean 11, what the film is. But I use this because it's happened to us. So it's really sharing experience. In a given project, so mainly in brownfield, I'll focus on brownfield, not greenfield. Greenfield is obviously a different sort of tale, but brownfield, because 80% is brownfield that we have to retrofit. There are so many people involved. So you have the consultants, the BMS guys, the IoT guys, the software guys, the certification guys, the subject matter experts. You have the ESCOs, and sort of everyone does their own thing. But the empathy towards the person we're speaking to, they see an army of people and they just need to have all of that unified. So like Ocean's 11, the focus is, if you go, just press one more, is to make all of this mainstream is data accuracy. In the sense, accuracy and reliability is a lot of, so IoT sensors, some people say, oh, the accuracy is 10 to 15% off. And then the BMS data may not be as accurate as we thought. And then the integration platform will have to juggle with all of this. And then the consultant will say something. The key is the data accuracy, is to make sure that everyone is on the same playing field. So the buying process is simplified. Nowadays, I still feel that there's a lot of different information. An occupant or an owner will go and do their own research. They'll go and ask 5 different companies for the same thing. And they will get 5, not, I mean, obviously in any market you have slight differences, but here, excuse me, you have so much variations between the results that you can get from IoT to BMS to all the data. It's just too different. And there is no common ground which we need to have. And these teams, all of these guys have to work together. We have to work together because it's really hard to make it mainstream if one does their own thing. It's just really complicated. So I think we just have to bring all of the bodies together and work closer together. Number 4 is B and C grade buildings. So even in Singapore, maybe 90 to maybe 80% of the buildings here are still B to C grade. But when we talk about smart buildings, we have in our mind an A grade smart building, which is a very, very small proportion of the market. But the thing is if we're all going to go to net zero in 2050, if you look at the cities that we're all in now at the moment, and if you walk down the streets, most of the buildings are so far away from being even remotely smart. But we will not be able to get to the infamous net zero if all of these buildings and all of these properties do not have the ability to improve their operations, reduce and optimize their manpower. So we have to make it easy. And it's not just up to the governments and to the organizations to do that. It's also to facilitate and to make it simple. And today is quite complicated. If I take, for example, an organization like Uber, it's very easy to use. In the background, there's so many things that make it work. It's complex, but the interface is relatively simple. And I can choose personal or business when I book a taxi, and that's it. That's the only choice I need to make. So we have to make all of this easy for all of these and B grade and C grade buildings, because otherwise we won't be able to do so. And it's not just a question of price. It's just to explain it simpler in a simpler form. So to make it mainstream, for me, this is probably one of the most important, is to make all of this accessible to these owners and operators that manage B and C grade buildings. And the last one, it goes back to point number 1, which is the people, the occupants. You can't just have a blame game. So to get to net zero economy, even if you have a great, beautifully built building with all the right legislation, all the right certifications, if people within that building do not do what they need to do, which is to switch off the lights, which is to do whatever it is to minimize the carbon footprint, their own carbon footprint, and therefore their organization's carbon footprint, then we won't get there. And to do that, gamification is the key. We have to make things fun and stop blaming people and saying, oh, if you don't do this, then, the carrot and stick approach. I really think gamification is the key to making the low carbon economy feasible and to making smart buildings basically take off. If people can say, oh, if I go to work tomorrow and I'll order a salad from that place, and I have that meeting online and that meeting offline, and I do this and that, my carbon footprint will be X. But if I do something else, my carbon footprint will be X plus 20%. I, as an individual, choose the better option. All the smart building does is provide data for that person to make a more informed information, but it needs to be in a gamified way, not in blaming the individual, saying you haven't done what you're supposed to be doing. We have to provide data in a gamified way, and I think that's really, really critical, along the other four reasons. This has been used. I think JLL came out with this. A few other companies have used this. Things to things, things to people, people to people. So 20 years ago, it was definitely things to things, right? BMS, very technical, BACnet, Modbus. I connect this to that, this point to that point. My chiller communicates through the BMS. But that's it. It's a very engineering tech thing. What do I do with that? All it does is maybe save me a bit of money. Then things to people is, okay, I'm going to provide that information to maybe the tenant, and I'm going to say, well, you have access to your individual sort of air vents, and you can save a bit of money by doing this. We're starting to get to the people. But people to people, that's where you automate business processes. You integrate what the information the building is giving you to the organization's structure, the organization's business processes, how the tenant works, how his employees are coming to work, what are they eating, how do they want to move around the building, is there a sports facility? All of that is essentially saying, like COVID, we saw it, beautifully wonderful buildings, but absolutely zero people in it. You need people in buildings, as simple as that. So it is a people thing. So if I'm going to renew my chiller and it's going to cost me $500,000 and I've got 7 properties, so that's 3.5 million. What does that bring to my tenants? If it's just money, then we're missing the point. That tenant has to be able to correlate that to, is that going to ensure my employees go to work and be productive? Organized companies don't essentially want offices. They just want people that enjoy working for them and become productive. So we have to all, and I include our company and everyone in our industry, to get to the people to people. If I relate back, and I'll finish there, like to Uber, when you used to hail a taxi in the street, it's things to things, right? I need to go from one place, but there's no service. Uber, I can book it in advance. I can say I want a bigger one. I can say I have a dog. I can say I've got kids. I need a kids chair. I need a 6-seater. I've got a surfboard. Whatever it is, it's about the service. And buildings have to get to that level of service if they are going to bring people back into them, whether it's residential, commercial, retail, whatever it is.
Good stuff. All right,
and
guys.
That's it.
Yeah,
20 minutes.
Excellent stuff. There's the QR code. Sorry, if anyone is interested in the white paper. Yeah, so we've got a few minutes left. Would be interesting to go over to Daniel from Add to Cart, see if there's some comments, some questions. Sorry, okay, I apologize. Anyone interested in asking Adrian a question, of course, put the comment or question in, and we'll take them now. Is there anything waiting? Thanks a lot. Great. Okay, comment here. Gamification is critical. Totally agree. Occupants are motivated by experience. Operators are motivated by technology and building conditions. So some agreement there. Another comment here. There needs to be standardization and industry definition around smart buildings. Actually, that's a good point, Adrian, because we can elaborate on that. It didn't come up too much in your, but I mean, obviously it ties into some of the points you made. But it'd be interesting in your thoughts on that. So we're not interested in opinion, sales pitches, or views from a siloed disciplines. Our industry cousins in Industry 4.0 are already breaking down silos and steaming ahead. Smart buildings could take a leaf out of their book. Yeah, that's a great comment. What do you think, Adrian? I mean, we are, as an industry, construction, building, kind of way behind with digitization if we look at Industry 4.0.
Indeed, I mean there are a number of companies which I won't name. There are beginning to try and codify our industry. So we use the same terms. So I mean, obviously there are industry protocols, but that's from the sort of the tech side. But from a commercial side, it is, if I want to be sort of neighbors ratings and leads and green mark in Singapore, many other regulations. Everyone has a different definition of everything. And I'll give you one example.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a meeting earlier this week, and we talked about the infamous digital twin. Topic came, so there was us and three other organizations that were in the same industry, all in the smart building industry. And I said, look, just for the fun, let's take a few minutes and define what we actually mean, each of us, by digital twin. We all had an overall, obviously, crossovers, but essentially the finality of the product, of the outcome of a digital twin, how we use it, was radically different. And certain government bodies in Singapore are trying to do that, and the Singaporean government is probably ahead of many others. Me being French, I know that they are vastly ahead of trying to define all of this, from digital twins to IDD, which is integrated digital delivery, and basically how you implement all of these things. But yeah, it's it's tricky because we lose a lot of time. We had portfolio owner. We said one thing. I said, no, we're going to do Gresby, and then another one within that company said, no, we're going to follow, this other certification body. So there's a lot of time wasted because there is a discrepancy in understanding and definition, and mainly outcome. And this is where this links back to the comment that someone just said. Yeah, absolutely, silos, because everyone does everything on their own. So you have, the BMS, the IoT, the software, the hardware, the fit outs, the consultants, the architects, the ESCO. And when you take the key definitions, everyone has a slightly different one. So when it comes to the decision maker, he goes, hang on, guys, you're just not really speaking the same language. While in other industries, pharmaceutical, for example, there's not an ounce of, not a millimeter of disagreement. There's a regulation. If you're FDA certified, you're FDA certified, and there's no calm about it. That's the way it is, and that's where we need to get. A digital twin needs to be whatever needs to be defined. And I know in the US, Biden actually had there was a topic a few weeks ago on this, on how to bring digitalization within the built industry to reach net zero goals. So there are lots of different bodies trying to codify this, but it's work in progress all over the world, I think.
So, I mean, I'm paraphrasing really, but you're talking there, obviously someone mentioned silos, but also it's like the structure of delivery, right? The way that we construct, deliver, operate, maintain buildings is just so siloed, or these different types of industries that don't collaborate enough. Is there how do we solve that? I mean, we've talked about sort of better integration before, but it never seems to happen.
So I'm going to have to do a shameless plug here. But we have a product that does exactly that. We have a product which is called C2O, which is stands for commission to operate, which follows from the time the architect starts drawing, to the first brick being laid, to the first cables being laid, to the cement being poured. We have a tool that is used in some of the projects that I mentioned in the beginning, and there are some very large projects on these ones that I cannot mention in Singapore, which use C2O. Because you have a main contractor. That main contractor has hundreds, let's say tens of subcontractors. Everyone does their own thing. That main contractor will then go and speak to the person who has the project, let's say $500 million, $500 million. They should be able, from their laptop, to be able to have a digital twin that builds itself and emulates and simulates on a daily basis what is actually going on the work site. Mm-hmm. Right, this is being laid, this is going to happen next week, this is delayed, this is how much it's going to cost me. But how many times projects are delayed because it's a blame game? Oh, the others didn't do this, so I had to do this. Absolutely. Delayed, and then it's just... So there are tools, and we'd like to think ours is pretty good, that does continuous monitoring of everything. And some people, to be quite frank, are unhappy about that because we, through a software, control and build the digital twin on a daily basis. So you see things. You don't have to get in the car, put your boots on and your hard hat and see what's going on. You can just do it from the comfort of your own office. Mm-hmm. And that's the key. The key is to digitalize, to ensure the physical twin is a direct replica, live, day-to-day of the digital twin. And once it is commissioned, you need to have a managed services that doesn't say, right, I've delivered you this, the building plus the tech inside, now I'm leaving. There needs to be a follow-through of managed services, which is, once again, what we deliver through our SSI is they deliver that service. Is we've delivered you a project. Now, you're not going to pay me. I'm only going to get paid on the outcomes that you get from the operations of your building. So I'm going to save you X on energy. I'm going to save you X on manpower. I'm going to save you X on this and that. And I am part of this. Yeah. And one of the key is also to have this partnership on how to run and operate the building and the portfolio.
Yeah, which ties back into one of your points. We are out of time, I'm afraid. I'll just read one last comment. There are fundamental silos at the design and delivery layer. IT tech doesn't talk to OT tech. MEP steams ahead and designs without understanding FM design and build contracts, and CDP destroy most things smart. So yeah, I mean, that speaks again to this sort of structural problem. But look, please, obviously we finished the stream, but you'll be able to see the comments there, and anyone who wants to add to the conversation, they can. So yeah, sorry we're out of time, but I think just say this is going to continue this conversation, and really interested to see what people think. And of course, thank you to Adrian for your contribution. I thought that was an excellent summary.
Thank you, James. And for anyone's in Singapore, feel free to drop me a line. We can have a coffee, a beer, or wine, whatever it is, and have a chat.
And I know you put your email address up there in the slides as well. Yeah. Yeah, and again, of course, we've recorded this, so we'll be putting it on our YouTube channel later on. So thanks, everybody, for joining. Bye for now.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone. Bye.